Will the clerk please read the statement?
This is the meeting of the Township Council for Thursday, October 17, 2019. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public and the press and on January 3, 2019, and was posted on the Municipal Building Bulletin Board in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10.4-7.
Roll call.
Councilmember Holmes?
Here.
Councilmember Carreri?
Here.
Councilmember Van Tassel?
Here.
Councilmember Allberger?
Here.
Council President Murphy?
Here. Please rise to salute the flag, and after the salute, if you could please stand, we have a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilmember Allberger asked me if I would read this. It's a moment of silence in honor of Edward Baruchian by the council and citizens of the Township of Vernon for his many years of dedication and service to the Township of Vernon. Mr. Baruchian was a founding member of the Glenwood-Pojuk Ambulance Corps, past chief of the Vernon Township Fire Department, as well as an officer of the Vernon Police Athletic League, who brought honor and credit to his family, his friends, and his community, and which will serve to inspire and encourage others to proudly serve their communities. Presented by the Township Council on behalf of the citizens, October 17, 2019. Thank you. First, we have a proclamation. Would Councilmember Carreri please read the Veterans Day one? And is there anyone present here from the veterans? No.
No. Proclamation, whereas the freedoms we enjoy as Americans have been purchased and maintained at a high price throughout our history, and whereas since the establishment of the original 13 states, Americans have been willing to fight and die to preserve their individual rights as guaranteed in the United States Constitution and the Bill of Rights, and whereas we owe a great debt to those who have served in defense of this nation, and whereas throughout generations their sacrifices have preserved our unique form of government dedicated to human rights and respect for the individual, and whereas for many that sacrifice has ended in permanent injury or death, yet their spirit remains in the continued preservation of our freedoms and promise of liberty, established as an example for all the oppressed persons of the world. And whereas in honor of these dedicated men and women, we pledge our continued defense of our nation so that their sacrifice will stand before the entire world as a tribute to the spirit and determination of a people dedicated to the principles of freedom and democracy. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Vernon Township Council do hereby urge all citizens to honor our veterans and rededicate themselves to the preservation of our liberties under the Constitution. And it's given under my hand in these free United States in the Township of Vernon, State of New Jersey, on the 17th day of October 2019, to which I have caused the seal of the Township of Vernon to be affixed and have made this proclamation public, signed by Harry J. Shortway, Mayor, and Gene Murphy, Council President.
Thank you. The next proclamation we have is for Polio Awareness Day. Mary Lynn Hogue from the Vernon Township Rotary did want to be here, but she had another commitment. They're giving a scholarship that has to do with robotics. So whereas Rotary International, founded on February 23rd, 1905 in Chicago, Illinois, USA, is the world's first and one of the largest nonprofit service organizations. And whereas there are over 1.2 million Rotary Club members comprised of professional and business leaders in over 35,000 clubs in 200 countries and geographical areas. And whereas the Rotary motto, service above self, inspires members to provide humanitarian service, encourage high ethical standards, and promote goodwill and peace in the world. And whereas Rotary International in 1985 launched Polio Plus and spearheaded the Global Polio Eradication Initiative, which today includes the World Health Organization, the U.S. Center for Disease Control and Prevention, UNICEF, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to immunize the children of the world against polio. And whereas polio cases have dropped by 99.9% since 1988, and the world stands on the threshold of eradication of the disease. And whereas to date, Rotary has contributed more than $1.7 billion and countless volunteer hours to the protection of more than 2 billion children in 122 countries. And whereas Rotary is currently working to raise an additional $150 million, which, if realized, will be tripled by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation for a total of up to $450 million over the next 3 years. And whereas these efforts are providing much-needed operational support, medical personnel, laboratory equipment, and educational materials for health workers and parents. And whereas, in addition, Rotary has played a major role in decisions by donor governments to contribute more than $8 billion to the effort. And whereas there are 20 Rotary Club members in the Vernon Township Rotary Club sponsoring service projects to address such critical issues as poverty, health, hunger, illiteracy, and the environment in their local communities and abroad. Now therefore, the Mayor and Council of the Township of Vernon, New Jersey, do hereby proclaim October 24th, 2019, and the date of October 24th henceforth annually as World Polio Day in Vernon, New Jersey, and encourage all citizens to join the Township, Rotary International, and local Vernon Rotary Club in the fight for polio-free world. Harry J. Shortway, Mayor. Jean Murphy, Council President. Next, we have the Breast Cancer Awareness Month. If Councilmember Ohms could please read that.
Okay, this proclamation is to acknowledge Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Whereas breast cancer is a serious threat to women's health across New Jersey and the nation, and whereas increased public awareness of this disease, its risk factors, and its symptoms may save lives as women across New Jersey learn to recognize the warning signs of breast cancer. And whereas breast cancer is treatable when detected early, and proper treatment can significantly reduce the suffering and deaths caused by this disease, and whereas in order to promote breast cancer awareness during the month of October, pink ribbons have become an increasingly recognized sign of courage, support, and hope for a cure. Now therefore, be it resolved by the Township Council of the Township of Vernon that the month of October shall be proclaimed Breast Cancer Awareness Month in the Township of Vernon, and the displaying of pink ribbons during the month of October is a wonderful way to encourage citizens to stand together against this disease. October 2019, Breast Cancer Awareness Month in Vernon Township. Signed by Harry J. Shortway, Mayor, and Jean Murphy, Council President.
Thank you. Next, we move on to public comments. May I have a motion to open to public comments?
Motion.
I have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? If there's anyone from the public that would like to step forward and have any comments on any agenda items, please do so. Seeing no one, may I have a motion to close?
Motion.
I have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next, we have our minutes. May I have a motion to adopt the regular meeting minutes of September 9th and September 23rd?
Motion. Second.
Roll call?
Councilmember Ohms?
Yes.
Councilmember Ferreri?
Yes.
Councilmember Van Tassel?
Yes.
Councilmember Olberger?
Yes.
Council President Murphy?
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt minutes.
I was going to ask if we could move the vaping discussion up. Should we wait a little bit to see if...
We do have a student coming.
Okay, so we'll wait for that. And I was going to move it up because if there were students coming, so we didn't keep them. So, okay.
Thank you.
So we will move on to, actually, we have a sewer discussion that I put on the agenda.
23rd minutes.
Excuse me?
Did you just say the
23rd.
September 9th minutes?
Did I? What did I say?
And I don't, you didn't say the 23rd, did you?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
you did? Oh, I have to
Yeah.
abstain from the 23rd. Only the
Do you
9th.
have, do you have that, Lauren? She has to abstain from September 23rd minutes.
Extension noted for September 30th.
Okay, I put sewer discussion on the agenda, and I see we actually have some employees and board and commissioners here. A few of the things that I just wanted to bring up with the sewer is, I know that we received, there's a few different things, but I know that we received the one check for $907,000. And what I wanted to clarify, first of all, is in going through the documents, I'm just trying to find out, do they still owe us money from that? Because the settlement agreement said it was an unaudited amount. It had $967,000. That was on August 15th. Then the Appendix B, that's attached to Ordinance 1901, has a number of $948,000. Here, I have the numbers here. if you want.
Me too.
And we received the 907, so I'm just trying to find out if we're still, one of the things is, are we still owed money for the 2019 amount?
I don't believe we're owed any money on 2019, but I can confirm that with the CFO and with Mountain Creek.
Okay, because, and going through, because I had emailed you, can I just, and actually I just noticed this when I was just putting all my things together for this meeting, is when I asked whether or not we had to amend the ordinance, and I'm just saying, you said you do not believe. Did you
Yeah,
say
I do.
we do believe?
I do not believe we need to amend the ordinance.
Well, because what happened, let me just look through my, I think in the agreement, it says that we are going to, or in the ordinance. Just bear with me, I did highlight things. In the ordinance, it says here, the pump house obligations are not...
Which section?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Are you reading a warehouse clause?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a whereas clause. It's a paragraph before, right before the small paragraph, right at the bottom of that paragraph.
Okay.
It says the pump house obligations are not yet determined, but shall be determined as set forth in the approved settlement agreement. Once the pump house obligations are determined, Appendix B shall be updated to include those amounts. So at some point, Appendix B will have to be adjusted, and
Appendix B is merely a restatement of the obligations owed by Mountain Creek for the sewer bonds, as well as the pump house obligations. So again, I don't believe that an amendment to the ordinance is required. However, the pump house obligations do need to be determined so that so that Mountain Creek and the municipality know the total amounts that will need to be collected to pay for those obligations.
I'm just trying to have all the documents reflect the same numbers and everything, because when we first got into this and we were picking up the agreements, there were attachments missing, or maybe not available, maybe never were available. So for the future, it would be good if we had things, and if everything kind of went along, or if they were adjusted to reflect what is actually happening. But, and like I said, and the other thing that I wanted to bring up about the pump house is that we were in a critical stage of having to replace the pump house, and nothing's been done with it. And, I mean, we actually gave the okay to go ahead and apply for the grant for the money, so the pump house could be replaced, because there was also, spoke to a company that wanted to possibly build a transfer station and send sewer down. But nothing can go down that pipe, because if it gets to Pump House 2, as the mayor said, there could be a disaster. So I'm just trying to find out, where are we at with that? Is anything happening with it? Because the agreement, the settlement, everything is predicated upon that pump house. It's supposed to take, 18 months to build? So it's like, what stage are we at? I mean, this council's, at the end of the year, is going to change. So a lot of the information, Councilmember Carreri was not involved in most of it, but council members that were here, we got away with that. A lot of information's going to change. People are going to come on this board, they're not going to know, it's possible they're not going to have that information. But if we don't have it, if we don't have the documents correct, it'll be next to impossible. And I'm saying correct because the numbers are different.
Yeah, I don't think the documents are incorrect right now. Appendix B cannot be updated because the sewer pump house obligations are not yet known.
Right. But then again, we only received $907,000, not $948. That's reflected in there.
Understood, but I believe that was an estimate, and I don't believe,
Well, the estimate was the 968.
as I say, I do not believe that the township is owed any additional amounts for 2019. I will confirm that with the CFO and Mountain Creek.
And that's all I'm saying, is because the numbers are all, they're just all different. And that's all, you know. And then the 918 that is due by October 31st, are we still anticipating receiving that?
As far as I know.
And what would happen if we didn't get that?
If the municipality does not get that, I believe that the municipality can go back to litigation with Mountain Creek.
And they haven't settled yet.
Yeah. Problem. So where are we with the pump house?
The MUA, I mean, no one advised me this is what the discussion is about, so I don't have any notes. I would have had the CFO here.
Okay.
So where we're at, the MUA was going to handle it. I've had a problem with the MUA handling it. The former director left, and now we have a new director who knows the system, has worked with the system for almost 36, 37 years. Him and I have already engaged in conversations how we're going to do this. We're going to keep it in the area. I would like the township to take the bull by the horns. It's our asset, and I think we should be responsible for replacing it with Mountain Creek paying us back. I don't think the MUA should do it. I think it should be through our own township engineer, whether they have to outsource it, so we have control of our own asset. And that's just my personal opinion of doing it. And now that Mountain Creek's coming out with the new MUA director, we have a great working relationship that we go forward that way. But this discussion has to be with the MUA. But I really believe we should control our own assets. And it is a township asset. The whole system is owned by the town. It's just operated and maintained by the MUA. It's a unique relationship. I don't know of any other in the state. By no means am I an expert, but I fail to see any other relationship like this with MUAs and townships throughout the whole state.
You know what? You just mentioned something, Josh, which jogged my brain too, is that in the whereas, a prior attorney always told me that the whereas, they just told me it was like breadcrumbs in the ordinance, and that the now therefore is really the meat of the ordinance. Because when I was looking for those attachments, they weren't there. You know, the A and the B, but they appear in the whereas, but not in the now therefore. And I'm only asking
I
that
don't
as
know
a-
what advice the municipality received from another lawyer
I'm only
about
asking that
whereas
because
clauses being irrelevant because they're
No,
not.
they didn't say irrelevant. They never said irrelevant. They said it was more like breadcrumbs. That's what they used. So I'm just asking,
I'm not really sure what the question is.
the question is-
The fact that the exhibits are referenced in the whereas clauses versus the ordinance?
not in the now therefore.
I mean, the purpose of the ordinance is to enact the fee to ensure that the 7% collection for recreational activities at the mountain is the law of Vernon Township. That is the purpose of the now therefore clauses in the ordinance. The appendix is an appendix that are also part of the settlement agreement that are intended to show what obligations are going to be paid by the collection of those fees. I don't know that there's a significant difference between the exhibits being referenced in the whereas clauses versus the now therefore clauses. Certainly, if it's the council's pleasure for the purpose of ensuring that future councils are aware of what the obligations are, the council is free to amend the ordinance to include the updated Appendix B. I would just caution the council that there are risks that go along with that, and that once you get into the process of amending ordinances, you have an ordinance that's tied to a settlement agreement, and you may be violating the settlement agreement based on whatever other amendments someone may want to add on to the ordinance.
Well, what about the pump house? Are we allowed to add that?
You don't need to add that in order for the pump house to be an obligation that's paid by the 7%. It's already in the ordinance.
I'm only reading what's in the ordinance, that's all. I'm just reading what's in it. It says it should be updated.
I understand that, Gene. The ordinance is crystal clear that the 7% is used to pay the pump house obligations. Those obligations are not known right now, so it can't be updated.
Right, but I'm just asking, once it is updated, you're saying it doesn't need to be updated, but I'm saying
I-
the ordinance says.
My opinion is you do not need to amend the ordinance to update Schedule B. If, however, the council would like to do that, they're free to do that.
So I guess then the council member owns the question of when will it start? We don't really have any idea.
When what will start?
Engineering, anything
I wouldn't
on-
do anything till the election's over, and so you know where the former mayor is going to start, because the next mayor is going to have to negotiate.
Well, yeah, I know, but this was going back, you know, I mean, we started this, even pushing ahead with the pump station back in 2018. So I'm just, you know, it's a little difficult because I'm just going by everything that we were told. And here, I pulled out minutes actually from, this was the Land Use Board meeting, July 25th. And this was, it said about the sewer pump house, the cost, the estimated cost is $2.1 million, with which, if a failure occurs, the Black Creek could be affected. So here we are at the end of 2019, and we still haven't done anything. I mean, we've come one step closer, but we don't know yet what's happening with Mountain Creek. So anyway, but that was, I just wanted to bring those numbers to everyone's attention because there were emails asking about whether or not it was paid in full. And I know we're expecting the next payment by October 31st. So, and they're supposed to pay us whether they're settled or not.
Trick or treat, October 31st.
That's what I thought.
Well, now the new guy has a question. So, Mr. Mayor, your position is we should do this on our own, the township, the pump
I think
station?
we should take control of our own assets and negotiate, hire the engineering firm through our engineer, whatever engineering firm is hired by the next mayor with the approval of the council, and start there.
So sort of
Actually,
cut out the MUA?
Well, you go with the MUA, but it's our asset. I would get their input, especially with the new director who knows the system, who's worked on the system. And being a resident of the town, Mr. Biagini is a real find for the MUA and the citizens of this town. So I would start it at that point. I would take the bull by the horns. It's ours. Why would we not take control of it? Now, they did file an application for the money, the IT money. So I don't know where that application is. Unfortunately, flow has even gone down as the water, toilets and everything become more effective. They're using less water. We have to get it up. Any more development, Mrs. Murphy is absolutely right. We don't want to be pumping excessive amounts into that system. So I just feel if it's ours, we should take responsibility and take control of it. I've always felt this way. The Mountain Creek bankruptcy delayed everything.
Right.
The MUA not having a director delayed everything. But now we have it.
I know this predates me, but it felt like an emergency 2 years ago.
Yeah, I just wonder,
I still feel it is, but where are you going to get the money? And,
Well, that's why they were applying for the grant.
For the
but-
grant.
But I guess I just wonder that if the town did get that involved, where would that leave the town with the obligation since the MUA's involved?
With guarantees?
Excuse me?
With guarantees?
No, just taking it on. We do have an MUA. They are an autonomous board. If that's something they're supposed to be doing, what's happening? Where's the obligation there? The agreement, what does that do with the agreement?
So what is the taxpayer on the hook for?
Right.
Well, I just feel if the council takes control of the MUA, if it was going to abolish the MUA in the future, or if we're controlling it, the council gets to approve the contracts.
Well, that's a whole nother.
And you're the elected officials,
Yeah, I
and I
know.
believe the council should have control of it.
We've had discussions about the abolishing, and I don't know that that was necessarily the right thing.
And we don't know. That would have to have discussion.
So, but I'm just saying is I don't know if the town, and I don't want, no, I could say interfering in that process, whether or not we would be helping or hurting, as you said, the taxpayer, and what would end up being, later on.
Well, the council has control of the contracts. You're the elected officials. I would want the elected officials to have control of the contracts, to vote on.
but not when everything else is going through the MUA. So, anyway, but I guess that's for a future, but there's nothing in the works right now on that.
Other than they filed the application for the grant.
Is there a joint meeting necessary?
No, my suggestion would be that the council have a representative of the MUA come in and advise the council at the next meeting on the status of the pump house. They were applying for the NJEIT grant several months ago. But they are an autonomous body, and they function independently, so they have the information.
Any other discussion on that? Okay. We will move on now. You have somebody coming, so we'll, she's on her way? I'll just skip, no, we'll just skip over that one. We're just going to skip over the B, that's on the items for discussion.
Were you
And
skipping over what?
B.
Okay.
We're waiting for a student to arrive. This way, there's discussion. The student is here. We'll move on to C under discussion. Ordinance amending Chapter 99, Article 3, Schedule 6 of the Code of the Township of Vernon entitled Vehicle Exclusion, Chapter 99. This is the ordinance on the weight limits. I had sent an email just asking whether or not there were any reports or anything on it, and everybody received a copy of Chief Young's email that came from the police department. And my question is that in amending any of this, has there been any contact with the county?
Yes.
What they
And
say.
because nobody responded when I sent the email, so I didn't get a response.
Their response was, has your township engineer been able to produce any certifications? I forwarded that, probably the end of last week. So we haven't had a chance to do that.
Okay.
We might, I don't know, we would be able to discuss that tomorrow a little bit? No? Okay. All right.
So, and I guess just for my own sake, again, it's, so the county, our engineer would have to be involved and contact the county regarding this?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying? And what about Lake Wallkill Road? The section of Lake Wallkill Road, that's Vernon, so it starts at the county, it turns into Vernon Township, but then it ends at the state line. Is there any need to contact the state of New York?
They suggested that we might want to contact DOT if we were going to go forward with it.
Okay. So.
The county made that suggestion, not DOT.
Any council members have any questions? So, just so everyone's aware, so this is basically, the township would be allowing the trucks coming in from 23. It would just be, they would be prohibited, over 4 tons, they would be prohibited from going down Route 515 to Breakneck Road, that section. Because right now, they have it right from the county line, from the Stockholm.
Yes.
Do we need to contact Hardiston?
Excuse me?
Hardiston,
Have they been contacted?
yeah. I'm just, because if it starts
I
at
know-
Stockholm,
I think the chief was going to be reaching out to the chief of police over there to
Okay.
discuss it with him.
so pretty,
This is all premature here, this
Yeah.
whole thing,
so we'll just,
wait.
If you would like to have that, where they come in and give you an update.
well, it's just that, well, we were given this as an ordinance to introduce the ordinance, and I put it on for discussion because
Right.
we had questions. So I'm just saying is, we're not introducing it, we're not doing anything with it
No,
till we
we're not.
hear further.
Correct.
The situation with Lake Wallkill Road, and I invite any one of you to go out there, and I'm out there all the time, on your bicycle, walk it, to see the damage that you're starting to see from these trucks, the speeds that they're traveling. You had a dump truck flip over last year and catch on fire. It's quality of life.
That's not the question, though.
Well, that's why I submitted it.
Right, but we're
To try to
not,
protect our
we're
residents and our
not
investment.
questioning that. I'm questioning whether or not we've contacted other agencies to
Well, when New
inform
York
them.
wants to start paying for us to pave the road, then I'll contact them.
That has nothing to do with whether you, isn't it
It's our road.
protocol? It's protocol that you contact them. That's all I asked.
It's our road, I want to protect our residents and our
I sent an
investment.
email, I sent it to everyone, no one responded. It's on for discussion. Now the business administrator says he's reached out to Corey. Corey's going to be reaching out to the county. It's a fair question.
I didn't say it wasn't. I'm
Well,
just telling you my opinion.
But I'm just saying, but nobody's saying that this is not an important issue. We just like to make sure we get it right.
As far as the 4-ton limit, is that not going to be for local deliveries?
Local deliveries are allowed. It's,
Yeah, they're
you know,
exempt.
it's from the quarry.
Yeah,
We've
it's just
discussed
the
this.
truck's taking a shortcut to the
Correct.
2 quarries.
Yes. And that's all we're trying to do.
Can you just come up to the microphone, please?
Just a comment on the weight restricting that roadway. It's going to take a lot of coordination. I mean, even the township would want to restrict that. State statute's going to require you contact all the other entities that are involved, being the county, the county. You're going to have to, some communication with the New York, with Orange County to the municipality on that side of the line, because you can't just simply say no trucks and then they have to be routed someplace else into another municipality. So the state statutes, the way they are going to require us to do quite a bit of investigations and studies to make something like that happen.
Okay.
Any idea what the timeline in that would be? Are they responsive, or is this going to be 6 months, a year?
The issue is getting all the parties together and making sure everybody understands the ramifications of, stopping those vehicles from using Lake Walco. They're going to go in other directions. They're going to use the state routes. They're going to use other municipal routes. They might go through Wantage, might use likely State Route 94 on Wantage to continue up into New York State. So you got a bunch of entities that are going to be involved. So it's going to take some time.
Okay, so we're talking years,
Excuse me?
months to years?
Months to a year. I don't think it's going to happen in weeks.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank
So
you. Thank you.
for a later date to be continued.
Yeah.
The one thing I can add to that is that on a previous time, not specifically related to this particular ordinance, we did have some discussion with the county with regard to their roadways and traffics, and we had asked them if they would be willing to support Vernon if we were to move forward and go to the state to request that Route 23 to Route 94 be designated as a truck route. And they essentially said no. We thought that they would likely support it because it would keep more truck traffic off of 515, 519,
17,
I'm sorry,
565.
17, yes. So we were hoping that they would for that reason alone, but they said they would not. So without their support, I don't think we would be likely to get something like that, which, obviously affects the quality of life in Vernon and would help a great deal, because if we are allowed to do that, we could reroute the trucks and probably even the buses from coming down 515.
I'm sure the other municipalities really don't want it rerouted through their towns.
Yeah, they don't want to go through their.
No, that Franklin, Hamburg, they're not going to want it going through their town, so. Thank you. The next item for discussion is the proposed ordinance for banning, I guess it's banning trailers. It's, ordinance amending Chapter 99, Article 1, 2, 3, and 8 of the Code of the Township of Vernon. And this is, again, Chief Young added a sentence reply on the back of this. And pretty much what's happening is that trailers are being parked on residential streets. So, and I'm sure, and I've come up where, you're driving down the road in a residential neighborhood, and there's a trailer parked there, and it's wide, and there's nothing really identifying it until you kind of come up on it with our dark streets. And I know he mentioned there was a specific area that this was happening. So,
But is that banned just for night only?
This is just for overnight?
That's what you're asking?
Yeah, for
Pardon?
overnight.
Is it-
Yeah, overnight. I mean, somebody's working, there, it's when they come home and they leave their trailers out in the road, or there's been a trailer down here for about 2 months parked on Theta, and there's no statute, I've been complaining about, there's no statute they can write.
So lawn service that park their
Oh, that's all
trailer-
fine.
Okay.
It's mostly a night over, whether you wanted to change it to 48 hours, or, it's a suggestion to get them off the streets at night, because I've seen it happen, in my police career, I just trying to, again, stop a potential hazard.
Is it pretty much a dusk to dawn type?
Yeah, whatever the council decides on, let's call it to your attention and discuss it.
So, I mean, that's, other than that, anybody have any other discussion on that?
No, that would be a good, dusk to dawn would be a good way to go.
'Cause it's a lot different out there now.
Usually do they do it like a half hour before dawn and a half hour after sunset, or is it, I don't know, but we get something out there just to protect the residents and traffic.
We can we ask somebody with expertise in this, if he has it?
You're the council president.
Well, no. I was just going to ask Lieutenant Hall if you had any input on this.
This particular ordinance, no, I have
Okay.
some comments that may answer some of your questions from earlier. Yeah, I've moved on.
Oh, okay.
But if you have questions about that, I have limited information, but I do have some knowledge on that topic.
Does the count, and you're talking about the tonnage, the one with the,
Well, yeah. from
can you just
earlier,
come up to the microphone, please?
But also the one you're working on now, the trailers, RVs, campers, landscape equipment.
It's, right, so it's just really at night, but as the mayor...
That's the major concern.
Mayor said, like a half hour before dusk,
That would be a good option.
to, and
Yeah, half hour
half
before,
hour
half hour after.
after dawn. Because in the
You don't
daytime...
want to restrict the local businesses.
Right.
Right,
The ones that are trying to make a living, and that's
Right.
what they do for a living.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, be reasonable and not to park overnight, every night.
right.
I know there was a discussion about maybe a 48-hour exception of some sort. Maybe that could be,
Or they could call it into the police desk and say, hey, I can't move it out, I'll be out the next day, afford them that option. I know some municipalities do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, has to be notified.
Yeah.
The-
A lot
Make
of
sure
folks do
they
that
put
with
out
the-
cones and it's safe,
Yeah.
Yep, sounds good.
as long as it wasn't taken advantage of, like, oh, it's going to be out there from, June 1st till September 1st.
Yeah, be the discretion of the police.
Sure.
So can we adjust the ordinance to have
Sure.
something like that?
I think that the amendment was made to include the definitions that are provided in Chapter 99, Article 2 and Article 8, they already exclude, I believe, overnight parking, and this is being used to include these vehicles in that definition, so that they would be excluded from parking overnight. I'll take a look at that and make the necessary adjustments.
And then on the other, did you have any comments?
Yeah, you made a comment about not being accessible from Hardiston in it, and I think that the whole concept here was to limit the truck traffic from 638 to Breakneck. So anybody that needed access with heavy equipment that wasn't along 515 or the side streets of 515 could have access to Highland Lakes via 638
Right.
from 515.
And I think I just wanted to know whether or not Hardiston needed to be notified.
They already have some type of weight restriction. I thought it was due to some type of bridge that they have there. Which,
I want to say that's a 4-ton bridge.
There's a sign right out near the tracks.
there is, right by Snufftown.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, there's signs there.
So I believe Hardiston already has something in effect, but I think it was, I want to say overlooked a little bit because that's sometimes the only access to Highland Lakes. But I think that, the whole purpose of this was to restrict them from traveling down Cisco Hill. But we didn't want to affect NWAC or deliveries there, so that's why we moved it up to Breakneck so they could still get deliveries coming in from the 94 end.
And if we do that, will we be putting any more, I guess maybe more visible, not that we want to, add more signs, but to keep people from going down?
Well, I think once once it's adopted, it's going to be an enforcement
Yeah.
as an educational tool and as a, consequence once they're not following through with it. But, I don't think you want to pollute the roadway with more sign. It's going
No.
to be an enforcement thing on our end at that point. But without the proper adoption of the, ordinances, we can't do that enforcement.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any questions? Other?
No.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
So, let's see. We'll do the discussion on the,
It was actually our hope that some of these Vernon Youth Group would be able to be here,
Yes.
but due to the weather and their schedules of band and sports, we do not have
okay.
someone coming. So
Did,
we
does
do
the-
have our resources here if you have questions or, how can we
and this,
state your name for the record?
so what we'll do is I was just going to ask the council if we just wanted to hear from some of the members here from the coalition on this ordinance.
Which one?
On the vaping?
The vaping?
The vaping. Well, this is, the one that we're having a discussion on is the one that's going to restrict sales.
Well, I could discuss a little bit. Is it still legal in New Jersey, vaping, to sell the products?
Yes, yes, it is.
And where's New Jersey at with it?
With banning it, they haven't enacted a ban yet.
Okay.
I don't believe,
And this is a product for adults over 21?
I'm not, as far as vaping products, they're still legal in the state of New Jersey. So if you meet the requirements to purchase them, you can purchase them.
And that you have to be over 21?
I believe so, but I
Yeah.
don't know for sure.
Okay. Well, my personal opinion is I like...
Excuse me?
wait.
What did you say?
I said my personal opinion is to wait to see what the state does. I have a problem banning something that's illegal, that's sold to adults. We sell alcohol in our town, and we're not banning alcohol. Alcohol is far more dangerous at this point. Same thing with cigarettes. So that's what I have to say about that. To me, it's like a spot zoning almost now. I would like it to go to zoning and see what they say.
To the land use board.
Land use, excuse me, yes.
And would the council like to hear, we do have members here from from the coalition?
Sure.
Yes?
And then we can continue with our own discussion?
Yes, yes. So if any of you would like to come up and address, now this is the ordinance that we are probably going to attempt to send to our land use board on banning the sales of vaping products. So if you want to step up, if you have any comments.
My apologies, I can't
If-
hear very well.
Oh, okay.
And I'm in the market for a good hearing aid, so if you guys can
just
get
state
me
your
an
name.
appointment, that'd be awesome. So bear with me. Basically, we have two
Rebecca
individuals who are from our New Jersey State Tobacco Grant, that they've been working with a lot of the municipalities all over the North New Jersey to help identify wording, to help ban the sale of any of the e-cig product, because we are concerned about the fact that from 2017 to 2018, according to the CDC, we had a 78% increase with our youth using this product, even though we've had it at age 21 for quite some time. We know that we need to grandfather the two vape shops that are in business at this time, but if we can look at what's going on in the future, that would be optimum. Do you have any questions about it? I mean, these guys, do you have any wording that you want to use, or?
Do you want us to come up and,
Can't hear you.
do you want us to come up?
Yeah,
Sure.
Yes.
Sure,
Yes.
please do.
Like I said, you guys are the experts in this part of it.
And if you could
These
just-
are our resources, they really are all over the state, and they're dealing with a lot of these municipalities.
And if you could just state your name.
Sure. Good evening. I'm Elise McGockran. I'm the Northern Regional Coordinator for Tobacco Free for a Healthy New Jersey.
Hi, I'm Tracy Storms Mizuko. I am the Northern Regional Coordinator for the Youth Tobacco Action Groups from Tobacco Free for a Healthy New Jersey.
And
And the Center for Prevention and Counseling.
Yes, we both work for the center as well. Tobacco Free for Healthy New Jersey is a New Jersey Department of Health program, and we have several initiatives. A youth initiative that Tracy coordinates, smoke-free housing, smoke-free workplaces, smoke-free parks and beaches, which is now law. And then we also work in point of sale. So like the Tobacco 21 law, we were part of that effort.
And the smoke-free parks and recreation areas, smoke-free beaches, that's
Right,
part
they're
of.
part of that effort
as of January this
as
year.
well. We also have a college initiative called Jay Quits, helping our colleges go tobacco and smoke-free because many of them aren't, unfortunately. And we have 11 new quit centers under this new grant funding. So I don't know if it's helpful, if you have questions for us, is that a better way to go?
I get, maybe my question would be, would it, and this is a legal question, I guess, is banning the sales, do we start with preventing more? Can we, put a restriction on more vape shops opening in town? In the process of waiting for the state, if the state is moving on something?
Yeah, we can report on that too, if I know there were some questions about, so you know that the governor called a task force. He held there was a press conference held on October 3rd, and we were there with about 30 youth from throughout New Jersey, from the youth tobacco action groups. And so they did publish a pretty hefty report, and there were 9 recommendations as to how to handle this, what they're calling a vaping epidemic, which is what, the Surgeon General, right, has talked about it that way. And the number one recommendation was banning flavored e-cigarette smoking devices and products.
To include menthol, which is was not done when they actually banned the tobacco products, the flavors of tobacco products. So this would also be banning menthol as well.
So I don't know if you want to hear all the other findings that, the recommendations, restricting online sales, increasing the penalties for unauthorized sales. So not only for the retail establishment, but actually the employee who sells underage. There is no fine right now, so that would kind of, that would increase. Increasing compliance buys, that's the state program to check if stores are buying underage. So there's plans to add, I think it was, is it 16 more?
It'll be a total of 25.
25 inspectors. So again, that's a program that's kind of almost doubling.
And that used to be done on a local level on local health departments. It was called Tobacco Age of Sale. But when the funding went away 10 years ago for tobacco, that went away as well. So now it's done on a state level through the FDA program.
Some of the other recommendations, I won't hit every one, but strengthen the point of sale retailer practices. So, at the point of sale, having signs, warnings, so that consumers, can make informed choices about these products. Let's just.
And you do have to be 21 years of age in order to purchase any of the products, which does, include all of the electronic nicotine delivery systems, all of your jewels and all of your products such as that, so.
And so when we talk about, I know the discussion was, are these legal products? You do have to be 21 to buy the products. But what we can say about them is they're not fully regulated by the FDA now. So, if you hear a lot of talk about their ability to help people quit smoking, I'm trying to think some of the other things that we hear that are, they're being presented in a way that they're, not the things we're hearing in the news, like this idea that there's illicit products and then there's, products that are.
Black market sales.
Yeah, and then they're being presented as regulated products, just to know the FDA has not brought these under full regulation yet. That'll happen in 2020. So, just there's so much happening around this issue, and one of the strong things that communities can do is to enact ordinances at the point of sale. And there's a lot of different things that towns do. We worked with Morristown, where they, back in May, did an e-cigarette ban, but they took all the products out of pharmacies, convenience stores, gas stations, and they sell them only in tobacco 21 and over vape shops, which they licensed at $1,000.
Which really answers to your question about we sell alcoholic product, alcoholic beverages. So that would go along the same lines that they would only be able to purchase these products in an establishment that its age of sale is 21 for all products.
So you wouldn't even go in really if you weren't 21, because there's nothing for you to buy there if you're not 21.
That's the Morristown ordinance.
That's the
Morristown
Morristown ordinance,
You
so
have that.
if you have a copy of
We
that.
got that today.
And then part of their language is you can't have a store, like, I think it's 500 feet from a park, a school, a whole lot of different kinds of, and that's another, way to control this too a little bit through
So are they
through
setting
the,
themselves up? Are they
sorry.
setting themselves up if marijuana becomes legal to sell? I mean, is that what the vape shops?
That is a thought. It has
Yeah.
been a discussion item.
mean vape shops or the
Yes.
town of Morristown?
Oh, no, vape.
I was like, wait, how are we answering?
Sorry.
Yeah, well, and that's something I think we're all, anticipating, and so,
So as anything in New Jersey, it's usually a home rule in a local municipality. So there's a lot of different ordinances that have been introduced and some have been passed regarding the different issues that, municipalities are faced. We still have municipalities throughout New Jersey who are dealing with traditional combustible tobacco products because, perhaps their socioeconomic status doesn't really support the purchase of electronic nicotine delivery devices and the ENDS products. So it's really trying to determine what your interest is and what you think is going to be best for your municipality. But there's a lot of different ordinances out there that we would be happy to assist you with, and just, determining what's the best fit for Vernon.
And as of yesterday, the CDC did put a word on the disease itself with the long illnesses that there are. It's called EVALI, E-V-A-L-I. You'll see that, I'm sure, in the headlines. As of yesterday, we had 33 fatalities nationwide with this issue. We have over 1,200 documented situations now with this illness. And it's not just youth either, it's also some adult population. And two of those are from New Jersey. So not only is this unregulated, not only do you not know what's in these products at all, and they don't have to tell you, we do know that it is having fatalistic effects right now.
and then the other effect is that it's creating a whole new generation of nicotine dependence, where our numbers in New Jersey were so low for youth, and now you have a whole new generation addicted to nicotine. And, you don't have to look far to just Google and look at what's out there and youth telling their stories, right? That they can't put these things down. They wake up in the middle of the night to vape. It's so easy. You can easily, they look just about like a pen, right? You can do that in the classroom. They have sweatshirts you could buy, so the little hoodie strings help you vape. You put it under there and it looks like you're just chewing on your string of your hoodie. So, I mean, it's just so much easier to use these products than traditional cigarettes. So, and I don't know if you're aware that one little jewel pod is equal to the amount of nicotine in a whole pack of cigarettes. It takes like 100 cigarettes to become addicted to nicotine. So a starter pack of Juul has 4 pods, and you add one more, and you have a nicotine addiction. And so that's another big concern too.
And I just want to say one other thing. There are no approved ENDS products that are approved for smoking cessation. I know that a lot of the products, especially the Juul, has sold themselves as a smoking cessation device. There are no approved devices for smoking cessation, so.
Have you seen many schools purchasing the vaping detectors?
A lot of schools have been trying. There's a lot of grant funding that they've been applying for to do that. They are expensive, but that is an avenue that some of the schools have chosen to take.
And this is really impacting our schools in a big way, and that's a big part of what Tracy's working on, that, we have policy we've developed. We just trained about 150 people at William Patterson last week in a training called Don't Get Vaped In, because the demand for this topic is so great. We just can't be all over the state. But definitely our schools are very much impacted by this epidemic.
And so there's grants available for that?
There's different grant funding available from different, it's something you would have to look for. We could always assist a school with trying to define the available grant funding.
And how young, at what age are they really starting?
They're starting as young as middle school.
Yeah. And that's the thing, when we were in Morristown, what the parents were so angry about is that we're not talking about oh, you're 18 and you passed yourself off as a 21-year-old. We're talking 12-year-olds that were able to go into stores in town, in Morristown, and buy underage. And, the residents who came out to speak felt like you had your chance to follow the law, and you didn't, and we need to protect our youth because it's just.
And that's one of
gone
our primary concerns is following the CDC best practices for, completely preventing youth initiation. And with the use of these flavored products that we've seen, youth initiation, where our levels used to be plummeting, now they're going back up as far as, use of tobacco products and addiction to nicotine. So.
Anybody else
Any
have
questions for us?
I will tell you that
Does
actually, the
anybody-
Vernon Coalition has an office in the Board of Ed building itself. And every year, when they confiscate all of the e-cigs and materials from our middle school and high school, they give them to us for us to educate with. And we get bags every year from the Vernon School District.
Do you have a question?
So it is here. It is very, very real. And it is something that needs to be addressed with our youth population. The kids who weren't able to be here tonight, they actually have been working together to address the vaping issue overall. They're using the strategic prevention framework to do so. They're part of that youth group initiative that Tracy was telling you about, and I am very sorry they're not here. They're sorry too. But this is something that they decided was an issue they needed to work on. So it wasn't just us as adult population telling them, this was something they made the decision to say, this is important to our community.
Because it impacts their everyday life in school. I mean, these are kids who can't and don't want to go to the bathroom because they have to deal with vaping and all the different ways that, it's impacting them.
Is there anyone who regulates these stores, the vape stores? Who do they answer to? Is there any laws for the vape stores?
No, they're not licensed in the same way that a
What's to
tobacco.
prevent them from selling the flavored Juuls? Is there anything that prevents these stores from selling that?
There is legislation that's been
Proposed.
proposed.
Are you talking
Nothing
about
has been
enforcement?
passed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who regulates the stores?
That's a different story.
No,
Right,
because
right.
vape shops aren't licensed in the same way that stores that sell tobacco have a license. And that's why doing a local ordinance around regulating them is, a really strong
But
thing
you
to do.
can't- You can't enforce what's not out there. If
Right.
there's no ordinance and there's no permit, there's nobody who can enforce it.
Right.
So what about
So that's where it starts.
the Montgomery Township? Did you read that one?
I think theirs is a vape shop licensing ordinance, so they created a licensing fee. I can't remember with that one, that's a little bit farther back than the Morristown one for me, but.
And I didn't read it because we just
Yeah.
I got this from Rebecca this afternoon.
It's a little bit, it's more strictly about licensing vape shops and probably has some language about where they can be and having a fee. And then with that licensing fee, a lot of towns use that funding, that money, to do education or some kind of enforcement.
Vaping detectors.
Maybe, yeah.
Possibly.
I mean, that funding can be designated towards, prevention, outreach, communication.
But you think that the Morristown is a viable one to possibly at least look at? Because I think, what we'll be doing is having the discussion, but sending this to our land use board. And we could send the other ordinances along with them to show that.
See which
you know.
way.
And maybe a contact number for these ladies. Maybe they could speak to land use.
We have
Yeah,
Rebecca.
sure.
Yes,
We're
we're happy to
happy.
come out.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
No, I'm saying land use.
Yes.
Maybe they could use them as a
yes.
contact or a consultation.
So, and
Any other?
Councilmember
Questions?
Orberger and the mayor are on the land use, so, you know.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for pushing this
Thank
forward
you.
as well.
So, send this off to land use, and along with at least the Morristown ordinance, for them to take a look at, come back with, yes? Yes?
good.
And then,
Some materials that these gals brought for you guys too.
thank you. And the email, Lauren, Rebecca's information is on the email. So if it goes to land use, if you could just pass on that information also. Thank you. Anything else? Before we move on, and can we just move up ordinance 1924? That is the ordinance, this is an introduction for banning the electronic smoking devices in township parks. Since they were
Why
just
do we
here.
have to move that up?
Oh, I thought they were staying. Never mind, we can leave it. I was going to move it up because they were here, so I figured we'd move it up, but they're leaving, so we can just leave it where it is. Next, for discussion of the short-term rental ordinances, we have on here for discussion and possible introduction.
Well,
We just received a copy of the one from Hopakon also.
you
So
received a copy of what?
Excuse me?
You just received a copy of what? I didn't hear you.
One from Hopakon.
Oh.
So anyhow, we have two ordinances. One has the fee and one has the creation of the regulations, which we had in September. I think Councilmember Allberger, did you have?
Yeah, should we be kicking this back to the Land Use Board to go over as well?
I don't believe you need to send this back to the Land Use Board. The Land Use Board is required to review zoning ordinances that are adopted by the council. This is neither of these are zoning ordinances. There's two ordinances and there's two issues raised by short-term rentals. One is the collection of revenue as part of the hotel tax for short-term rentals, and then the regulation, meaning registration and inspection of short-term rentals. Taxation is in one portion of the township code. Regulation of short-term rentals is in another part of the code. That's why there's two separate ordinances. One that would make short-term rentals subject to the 3% hotel tax and to include them in that definition. The second ordinance then would enact regulations for registration and inspection of short-term rentals. Certainly if the governing body believes they'd like input from the Land Use Board regarding the inspection, and if the Land Use Board would like to enact zoning regulations related to short-term rentals, the governing body can then make that recommendation that the ordinances be provided to the Land Use Board for their review and opinion.
Well, and the mayor, you sent us all of this information. Did you want to discuss it?
Basically, let's face it, I'm in the 11th hour of my term, so how this would be administered really will be to the next administration, day-to-day operations. But this company's been connecting with me. We met with them, a virtual meeting, and they've been throughout the country. I think they're a software, just so you know, if you haven't had time to go through the program. They sell software to permit, to track down, they use, I guess, 30 different internet sources to make sure who's out there, who's advertising on the internet. That would be one way to go. They sell the software. There's different modules. I think the whole package is about $30,000 a year, but you would shop, it might be 10, 15, whatever the next administration wants to do. So when we had this meeting, this PowerPoint, I wanted to give the council all the information I had, so you could review it. So at least if we can start moving this, introduce it, and then further discussion to pass it, because I believe the state requires 90 days before any of the revenue can take effect. So you'll be setting the tone now, and then it goes into the first of the year. The next administration will have to figure out this time how to do it. I just wouldn't want to start imposing how to do the day-to-day operations on it, on an incoming administration, to be fair to them. But I think we could take those initial steps, requiring, unless you're going to send it to the land use board, to have the safety inspections done, because that should be the first priority. And then the second is, there's a lot of revenue. We estimated 220 internet-based short-term rentals are out there. Their account was 224.
But how long are they being rented for? It's not every day of
Well, we
the year.
estimated about a 30% occupancy rate out there. And they did similar. They were estimating about 158,000 of lost revenue. Ours was about 150. So you don't go every single day. I usually do like Friday, Saturday, and then sometimes you'll put a half in it, how you're going to do this. But apparently, as in the PowerPoint, this is a growing industry. And being a four-season recreation, you can see more people are coming in. And our hotel tax revenue is going up. Last month, we brought in about $40,000 on it, where in 2018, I think it was, or 2016, it was about $235,000 a year. We're up to $285,000. And some months are higher than other months. But 40,000 was the highest that I recall. I'm not saying it is, but that I recall ever coming in. And if you could put that short-term rental revenue in that, you could come up with a basic plan on what do you want to dedicate funds to, whether it's recreation assets, marketing, tourism, but that would be up to the councils to decide what percentage, if they chose to go that route. So my purpose was to give you as much information as I can, so you can make the informed decision required to do this.
And I just, when's the land use have their meeting? Do you know?
Next
Wednesday?
Next Wednesday.
Is it like for the vaping, and is there time? I don't know what their lead time is for putting things on their agenda.
I don't know, they very common.
Check with Kim Decker.
I mean, because it would eventually affect zoning. I mean, I would think that the land use should at least take a look at it, or zoning, somebody, as opposed to us enacting it, and then we find out that there's something in here that, because I don't know that they've actually looked at it, but I don't know how the rest of the council feels.
Well, $40,000 in hotel revenue, that's a big number.
It is a big number, because if it was every month, it's almost $500,000 a year, so it is climbing.
But that's climbing before we've regulated short-term rentals.
It will climb even more.
I get that. My concern kind of hinged a little bit on an article I read in the Herald, the New Jersey Herald, by Eric Oberauer. You might know him.
He's actually here.
He might be. Something came up about the New Jersey Highlands Region Preservation Area in the Highlands Enterprise Zone, which I'm a fan of. You're talking about trying to cut the sales tax by 50%.
Yes.
For most of Vernon, I believe, within the borders of
The whole borders, if the municipality has additional, the way I proposed it,
Okay.
more than 20,000 acres in the Highlands,
Right.
you would be, I think they've expanded it more, but that's going to have to be negotiated at the state level, and they're probably going to have to
Right.
bring in the Pine Barrens
Right.
too to get support.
And that's retail purchases,
Yes. Alcohol.
except for
90%.
cars, alcohol, and cigarettes. Here's my concern, and this is just thinking about, the taxpayer. I looked up a lot of the Airbnbs, the short-term rentals. I was a fan of the short-term rental ordinance. I'm looking at owner-occupied short-term rentals, and I'm a little concerned now. I talked to an older couple who rent out a room in their home, and it dawned on them that we're cutting taxes by 50% for the big guys on the mountain, and we're about to implement a 3% tax for them, the small folks on the mountain. And I hadn't thought about it in those terms before, but it's a valid argument. So I think maybe sending it to land use, perhaps that's where you get the nuance of, well, is it the whole house is considered a rental, or are they renting out a room? Is it owner occupied? And if it's owner occupied, is there a different fee? Is it just the registration fee? Those sorts of things that I'd like to see worked out. I mean, maybe I'm on my own up here, maybe nobody agrees with me, but, there's one way to find out.
Like right now, you have whole houses being rented out.
Absolutely.
So I'm following your
Yeah.
train of thought there.
And there's a lot of good there. I mean, you're talking about, in some cases, foreclosures that were flipped, and they were vacant houses, and, an investor bought them with the idea of renting them out with short-term rentals. I respect that, and I can see the income there. But again, my concern is, talk about a mom-and-pop operation, and think about the impact it would have on them. I'd like that to be worked out and worked through just a little bit more before we just roll this out to everyone.
I'm curious, is that internet-based or is it face-to-face?
Internet-based.
Internet?
Yes.
Because the Treasury Department is going to come for their tax. They've been
Sure.
here twice. They also are searching the internet, and they're going to come knocking on their door.
Right. Understood.
Like I said, last meeting, Airbnb contacted us. I think their biggest fear is we ban them totally.
Mhm.
And that's why they're saying they're going to cooperate. But you also have to keep an eye on them also.
Right. And my other question is, again, the online portal. I like what you said. I don't like that it costs 10 or 15 or 20 or 30,000, depending on what comes in. But this may not even happen during this term. This may be something for the next council to take up. I'm concerned that we move forward on this before it's all online. I'd like to see the online portal set up to remove that those extra labor hours from town hall to get this going.
And what my fear is if the next administration says, we'll do it with people we have or a part-timer and not look at it, I don't want to make that decision.
Okay.
I think it's only fair to the next administration. It's day-to-day operations that they make the decision.
Yeah. Well, again, I agree sending it to land use is
Well,
a good idea.
Are you going to the Warwick meeting on Monday?
That's the other thing. Warwick has a meeting coming up where they're going to be exploring a lot of these issues. Monday?
The 21st.
Yes.
That's Monday?
Yeah, I'm going.
I think it's, yeah, I may go also.
Okay.
So is anyone else going? You're not going?
No.
So, anybody else? Anybody else want to send it to land use?
Yeah. I think we should send it to land use.
You?
That's fine.
Sandy? So if we could just,
Send them both over to land use board along with the other.
and then if any information, if we find out any other information on, from Warwick, we may or may not, on Monday, we'll pass them along. And then did you, I did not, actually, we received the one from Hopatcon, introduced an ordinance. And I think I think what I glanced through, I think theirs have to be owner occupied.
They have to be owner occupied
Yeah,
in
Hopatcons have to be
Hopatcon.
owner occupied, which is difficult. Like I said, if somebody's renting out one hotel room with one bedroom, it's not going to be owner occupied, so we have a little bit of a different, but that was one of the main things in there. All right. Next, we move on to our consent agenda.
For the two additions also.
Yes. When I go through, I'll read them. Consent agenda, Resolution 19-197. This assigns various tax liens to the Tall Timbers Association. Resolution 19-198. This renews our contract for the updated New Jersey statutes annotated. Resolution 19-199. This authorizes application for the Holiday Drive Sober Grant. Resolution 19-200. This authorizes repairs for Lake Pochung Road. Resolution 19-201. This authorizes repairs within Maple Grange Park. It's the sealing of the walkway. Resolution 19-202. This authorizes repairs for Higgins and Walsh Way. Resolution 19-203. This authorizes the MOA for the AFSCME, the DPW employees' contracts. Resolution 19-204. This authorizes an easement for repairs to the PAL property. Resolution 205. This authorizes a contract for prescription reimbursement. And we've added two resolutions on. Resolution 19206, authorizing the mayor to continue the incentive to employees who enroll in an alternative health or prescription plan. And Resolution 19207, resolution authorizing the option for employees of the Township of Vernon to waive health insurance benefits.
May I
Yes?
have 205 separated?
Yes, we'll separate 205.
I have questions also.
Okay.
The 201.
So you want me to separate 201?
Yeah, I just have a quick question.
What is it?
The crack filler, didn't we buy that?
Yeah, this is to, we're actually hiring an outside firm, took the bids to do the whole walkway. It's going to be more than that.
But if we bought the device to fill in the cracks, like 2 budgets ago, why can't we do it there, like we would do in the road, if I understand it correctly?
We're sealing it also.
Yeah, but we're hiring somebody to fill the cracks when we bought that crack filler, or whatever it was. Am I correct? Like 2 years ago?
For road projects, this is a big project.
So,
This
well,
is-
why
I
can't
mean,
we do that?
I
Wouldn't it
think
save money?
I don't think so, because if you walk that and you start seeing how much of that is alligating, and also the cracks, like every 15 feet right across, you'll tie up the DPW for who knows how long. And I guess, maybe, John, you can better address this since you're more
I can't argue,
I think the
don't know.
material that's being used for the walkway is of a different grade than what's being used out on the roadway. And it's part of their bid for sealing it and then sealing the cracks and then sealing the walkway itself. You know,
We have our engineer here, and
No, we
we're
bought
blessed with
this,
two
whatever this is
experts.
to fill the cracks, I would think we would use it on our own property, but if you feel it's not feasible, well then,
Well, Corey
What do I
can
know?
fill in.
It's a great question.
It's probably feasible that your crews can do it, but I think the issue is how quickly they can do the operation, how efficiently they can do the operation, and you got to, truthfully, when they bid it out, they got a very economical price to do so, which the labor that you're going to entail, taking your guys off the roadway to do this work is going to be more than the $1,900 that it's going to cost to seal all those cracks. The company who's gave us the prices, Advanced Pavement Technologies, is a local firm. They give a very economical price for all of it, sealing and the crack filling and then the seal coating itself. It's a very economical price. I believe, bottom line, I believe the number they gave you is a very good number. And I think the product that they'll do in coordination with their sealing is going to be a better product when it's all said and done.
Thank you.
Well, you're trying also to prep the road on Lake Pochong and Williamsville Estates at the same, before winter too, so, I mean, if you had more time and more manpower, you could get it done, but try to
Like I
do
said-
everything at once.
Like I said, the forces for this dollar amount that they gave you, it's a good number. Truthfully, their ceiling number might be a little higher if you took the crack ceiling, the crack part out of their contract, so that would change a little bit, but I think that manpower-wise, it's keeping your guys on the roads doing the work, prepping for winter time, and letting them do other work that they need to do rather than crack sealing. I believe the numbers that you got, you're not going to beat this number what you got quotes for. You got two quotes, one for $8,000 and the other one for almost $11,420. I believe if you continue to try to get additional quotes, you're still not going to get less than that $8,000 number from APT. I think it's a good number.
Thank you for filling in the gaps.
What, are you taking Dan Cager's spot there? He
I
knows
did.
that- Yes. All right. Any other questions? May I have a motion to adopt resolutions 19-197 through 19-2004 and 19-206 to 19-207?
Motion.
Second.
Roll call?
Councilmember Holmes?
Yes.
Councilmember Carreri?
Yes.
Councilmember Van Tassel?
Yes.
Councilmember Allberger?
Yes.
Council President Murphy?
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt resolutions 19-197 through 204, 206, and 207.
May I have a motion to adopt resolution 19-205?
Motion.
Second.
Roll call?
Councilmember Holmes?
Yes.
Councilmember Carreri?
Yes.
Councilmember Van Tassel?
Yes.
Councilmember Allberger?
Abstain.
Councilmember Murphy?
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt resolution 19-205.
Next, we move on to ordinance 19-22. Ordinance providing for the improvement of various roads in and by the Township of Vernon, the County of Sussex, New Jersey, appropriating $50,000, therefore constituting proceeds of the obligation of the township herefore issued. This ordinance takes funds from ordinance 1615 and repurposes them. May I have a motion to introduce ordinance 1922 with a public hearing? Will we have time for October 28th?
Yes.
With a public hearing on October 28th. May I have a motion?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Councilmember Holmes?
Yes.
Councilmember Carreri?
Yes.
Councilmember Van Tassel?
Yes.
Councilmember Allberger?
Yes.
Council President Murphy?
Yes.
Motion carries to introduce ordinance 1922 with a public hearing on October 28th.
Next, we have ordinance 1923, ordinance of the Township of Vernon, County of Sussex, State of New Jersey, amending Chapter 94 of the Code of the Township of Vernon regarding the police division. This corrects an error in the Township Code. May I have a motion to introduce ordinance 1922 with a public hearing on October 28th?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Councilmember Holmes?
Yes.
Councilmember Carreri?
Yes.
Councilmember Van Tassel?
Yes.
Councilmember Allberger?
Yes.
Council President Murphy?
Yes.
Motion carries to introduce ordinance 1923 with a public hearing on October 28th.
Ordinance 1924, an ordinance of the Township of Vernon, County of Sussex, State of New Jersey, amending and supplementing Chapter 413 of the Municipal Code of the Township of Vernon entitled Parks and Recreation Areas to prohibit use of electronic smoking devices in the township parks. This prevents vaping in the parks. May I have a motion to introduce ordinance 1922 with a public hearing on October 28th?
Motion.
John made the first. Councilmember Ohms, the second. Roll call?
Councilmember Holmes?
Yes.
Councilmember Carreri?
Yes.
Councilmember Van Tassel?
Yes.
Councilmember Allberger?
Yes.
President Murphy?
Yes.
Motion carries to introduce ordinance 1924 with a public hearing on October 28th.
So on this next ordinance, 1907, we've been tabling for a while, but our engineer did send the letter to the county. So since Mr. Stoner is here, do you think that we would have a response from the county by October 28th?
I'm hopeful. I apologize, it's taken me a little while to get in coordination with the county, but I did do based on some field survey work that we did over the summer, I did a report. It went about 2 weeks ago, so I'm still waiting on the response. Reached out to the assistant county engineer the other day. I will do so, continue with that, but I would hope by the next meeting. My only concern is whether or not they may require that the county freeholders do a resolution as well. Okaying that. If they do so, that might push the second reading of this ordinance back a little bit longer.
Yeah, we've tabled it a few times, so
I know you have.
we'll do that. But
Okay.
may I have a motion then to table
No problem.
this ordinance 1907 to October 28th?
Motion.
Second.
Roll call?
Councilmember Holmes?
Yes to table.
Councilmember Carreri?
Yes.
Councilmember Van Tassel?
Yes.
Councilmember Allberger?
Yes.
Council President Murphy?
Yes.
Motion carries to table ordinance 1907 until October 28th.
Next, we have ordinance 1921, ordinance of the Township of Vernon, County of Sussex, State of New Jersey, amending and supplementing Chapter 5 of the Municipal Code of the Township of Vernon entitled Administration of the Government to update the rules of order and procedure governing council meetings. This sets up administrative policies for council meetings. May I have a motion to open the public hearing for ordinance 1921?
Motion.
Second.
I have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Is there anyone from the public that would like to step forward, have any comments on this ordinance? Please do so. Seeing no one, may I have a motion to close to public?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? May I have a motion to adopt ordinance 1921?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call?
I have some questions. Can we adopt it, introduce it? I'm sorry, can I get some questions clarified before we vote?
Sure.
So when it says here in F, number 1, no one will approach the microphone for public comment unless invited by the township clerk, president, or presiding officer as part of the public hearing or during one of the public comment periods. So how does that work? Being invited, no one will approach the microphone for public comment unless invited. Is that individually or just opening it up to the public? Explain that to me.
Well, when we're opening it up to the public, I mean, we're sitting here now having a discussion. If somebody just walks up to the microphone and starts talking, they'll be asked to sit down. That's what it's referencing.
Usually the chair of the meeting recognizes a member of the public and, invites them to come to the microphone and speak.
But we have to invite everybody. Am I correct?
You do that already.
Right, and then we'll continue to do that. I mean, I'm just curious, it just could be meant several ways. So, I mean, no one would be uninvited, correct? During a public comment?
No, there'd be no reason to uninvite somebody.
Okay.
Can we try?
All right, well, I'm saying unless invited, I mean,
They could be told their time-
I'm reading what it says right here.
They could be told their time is up, but...
Well,
they're-
true, but
they're in-
no one would be uninvited, even though you say you have to invite them. Am I correct?
Well, you do, but you are inviting them. We're opening it up to public, and then I
Okay.
ask
All
if
right.
there's anyone from the public that would like to step forward, so we're inviting them. It's,
Well, being recognized and invited seems pretty formal, but, all right. Just asking.
May I ask a question?
sure.
It's more of a legal. Is with the ordinance, and I was taught we never curse in front of a female, although my grandmother running a bar, she cursed like a sailor, and she was very good at it. The answer I'm looking for is with freedom of expression. How do we define profanity, obscenity? Where is that definition found? Are we exposing ourselves to a First Amendment issue here under freedom of expression and the New Jersey Constitution?
Based on F2? No, I don't think so.
Okay. Thank you.
So, it was your turn to vote, right?
Councilmember Lawrence?
Yes.
Your vote, Councilmember Lawrence?
Lauren's waiting for your
I'm
vote.
sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Oh.
Excuse me?
We were in the middle of the vote. It was your vote.
So you want me to vote?
Yes.
Okay, yes.
Yes. Councilmember Ferreri?
Yes.
Councilmember Van Tassel?
Yes.
Councilmember Alderweireld?
Yes.
Council President Murphy?
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt ordinance 1921.
Next, we move on to public comments. May I have a motion to open a public comment?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Is there anyone from the public that would like to step forward, have any comments on any issues? You're invited to come up. Come on up. You're invited, yes.
We invite you up.
I just want to make a couple comments about the resolution that you guys had adopted a few moments ago with regards to the PAL. This is really the first time I've come in front of any public to discuss this, although I've talked it over with many people on the phone and in person. I'm really excited about this project that we're finally seeing come and making it's a baby step, but it's a step. Our intent is to build an additional structure down at the PAL for indoor turf facility for practicing for any of the sports, be it ours or any of the town recreational sports, to utilize in the winter weather, during winter weather. And I'm just real excited about it. When I first started thinking about it years ago, it was kind of a pipe dream. Now it's actually, then it became a goal, and now it's here. And I just want to thank you guys and officially bring it forward that this is what our plan is. We have an engineer involved, as you saw from the resolution, but this is our first step, is relocating some of the parking that we're going to be utilizing for the project. So here again, I just want to thank you guys for accepting that, and I'm looking forward to the project as it starts to move. You guys have any questions about it?
Good luck.
That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. It's not going to be
That's
anything elaborate, although I'd like it to be nice, because it's probably going to be the first thing you see as you come down the driveway. But it's strictly for, I don't intend on doing any tournaments or anything like that. It's just strictly for training. So many of the teams are paying deeply to go outside of town during the winter months. And I'd love to see that stay in the community. I'd like to make it much more reasonable cost. You know, we're a nonprofit. I'm not out there, I'm not a businessman trying to make $1 on it. If it takes us double the time to pay off the loan, which is going to be a large one, so be it. This is something that I think is going to be great for our community.
All right.
Nice.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to step forward? Please do so. Seeing no one, may I have a motion to close to public?
Motion.
I have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Mayor's report?
Yeah, I only wish to inform the council and the public on the progress we're making on our different projects, and since our engineer's here, I'll refer to you, defer.
Busy man.
Thank you, Mr. Engineer.
Yeah, just an update on some of the things we have going on. Maple Grange Park, which obviously is a big one for us. They have, one of the fields is probably about 95% completed already. If you go up there, you'll see that the first field closest to the parking lot is mostly completed. They got the rubber in. They have to, fine groom that rubber, and they have a few other things to do, but that field's mostly in. They're starting work on the second field. They would have started today if it wasn't so windy. When they start to put the tarp out, believe it or not, it does blow around. So they did not work today, but they'll be there tomorrow starting work on the second field. They have all the stone graded, and they're going to be starting work on that. Warwick Turnpike has been completed. I want to just to put something on the record about Warwick Turnpike. That was a very difficult roadway. Anybody drives Warwick Turnpike, it's very heavily traveled, and being the fact that it starts at New York line and goes to West Milford line, it's on both sides. It took a huge effort with your DPW, your Department of Public Works, and the police department just to coordinate traffic control and make sure that road was safe. People don't slow down on that road at all. So they just did a really good job. We had to actually use more police hours, but I think it was definitely paid off for safety. We had three police officers, one on each side of the construction zone with a chase car in the middle to drive traffic through, turn around, drive traffic through the other direction, just a chase car to make sure nobody snuck into the line and it was going the wrong direction. So, but it went very well. We got it done under the budget that we had originally estimated, which has allowed us to actually even consider Higgins Drive and Walsh Way. That's going to be started next week. Lake Pochunk and Higgins and Walsh Way will be milled and paved next week. That's where the importance of the resolution tonight, so we can get everything get scheduled and be able to get completed before the end of the year. Milling is scheduled to start work on Lake Pochunk on Monday. So that's how close we are. Award tonight, the contract's tomorrow. We have a pre-construction meeting tomorrow, and they're going to start work on Monday. So it's things are moving pretty quick, but I think we're going to get them all done before the end of the year. I think when it's all said and done, I think we got about $1.5 million worth of construction work that's being done in Vernon in the last 2 months. So we're getting there. I think by the end of October, we'll be done with all construction, believe it or not. So I'm very happy with that. But it's been a little hectic, but we're there. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And if I could add, that road is very difficult. Having been a police officer in West Milford, we used to wait for them coming up. It's a difficult road, it's a dangerous road, but our DPW and our police department did an outstanding job. And so did Mr. Stoner. I mean, I think I've been driving him nuts with all these projects. and he's doing a fantastic job, and I'm glad he's here so I can compliment him in public. But they really made a great team between the DPW, the police department, our engineer, and with the contractors. We're getting things done. So I thank you, and I thank you gentlemen also. And Jay, to the police department. Thanks.
That's it, okay. Council comments. Councilmember Alberger.
No comment.
No comment.
Councilmember Carreri.
No comment.
Councilmember, oh, okay, leave it for me then.
We usually do.
Let's see. The personnel manual, is that being worked on? Because I know
Yes, you will be getting it.
you'd mentioned
Probably, let's see. I'll try to get it, see if I can get it out to you
Yeah,
tomorrow.
I mean, it's no rush, I'm just asking. 'cause
No,
you-
we were trying to get it sooner than this. There were some last-minute things that were spotted after review from inside this building, and I will try to get it to you tomorrow for review. I'm sure you are going to have some input into it, or some suggestions or questions. So please feel free to contact me after you get a copy of it if there's any clarifications that you may need.
Thank you. And the months, I guess maybe even a year ago, but months ago, we talked about the feather flags. And I'm just thinking, I have that written down here. The Land Use Board has, is that something that has to go to them? I think we discussed. So maybe that's something you could send to them also to see if they would allow the feather flags, because businesses are using them. But then every once in a while, you know, I don't know, I mean, as long as they're not obstructing traffic, I'm not sure that, you know, anybody's opposed to them. But if the land use could, you know, have some input on that.
Yes,
then-
we'll take care of
Yeah.
that, to answer your question.
And then maybe an update on the revow? Because I
They're
know.
moving along. I don't have all the figures here. They're pushing by the end of November for residents.
Yeah, there was an update that was put on the website recently. I don't
That it was just continuing.
Well,
That's
I
really
thought there was
what
a
it
little,
was.
there might have been a little more detail than that, but if, is there something more specific that you're looking for?
People were just asking, I just told them by the
I
end of
think
the
they
year.
doubled the amount of manpower out there.
Yeah.
So they're moving it along.
Now, they're supposed to go in every home?
They would like to. I mean, people don't have to let them in, but you'll be more accurate if you go in. And it's not based on like the amount of, bedrooms, so to say, but they're going to look at the square footage and then bathrooms and things like that. But we did put it on the website, and it's on, I think, the Facebook pages also. We had a whole update and wanted to post it, social media, so the public could read it.
And encourage them to make contact with the company in the event that they have missed them and all. They can follow up and make their own appointment.
Because I know people have said that they haven't heard from them, and I told them, call me, I'll give you their phone number, reach out to them, so.
I think it's on, it should be on there. If it isn't, we'll make sure it gets on there tomorrow.
Another thing is, the vacant property ordinance and the soil placement ordinance, I think we need to look at them. I spoke to Josh, make some adjustments on them. So if we could possibly maybe have that for the next meeting, because I think the vacant property one needs to be done by the end of this year. And I know that zoning had mentioned something about, at some point, that there was an issue with tweaking that
The soil.
soil.
I think Corey's actually
Corey had a weigh in on that.
circulated a revised.
Yeah.
You're popular tonight.
Excuse me?
You're popular
I know.
tonight.
We do have a soil fill ordinance in place. I've been working with actually Allison and Kim, Allison LaRocca and Kim Decker and Chuck with an amendment to the ordinance to try to fill in, I don't know if you would call them loopholes or just some questions that have been coming up since the ordinance been put in place. I think it's a good ordinance, but we've been adding something. We have a few items regarding them, just to make sure that any development in town, we had like an exemption in it for, other applications that go in front of the land use board that would be exempt from obtaining a soil fill permit. but we still want them to be in compliant with the requirements of the soil fill permit. So we had some wording changes. We're recommending some changes on just to explain to somebody who is bringing fill in how to make sure their fill is clean, because there's some statutes about why soil remediation, New Jersey statutes, so they know where to go to, figure out if it is clean. And I think another requirement was about the days for review, there's some clarifying items. The item about just making sure that any applicant that comes in for a site plan shouldn't be exempt from the rules. We want to make them so they're exempt from getting another permit, but they still got to know they have to have clean fill. We haven't had any instances where that's come up, but we had an instance in one of the lot development permits where they provided the information, but the ordinance wasn't very clear if they had to, but they did do it. So, but we're just going to clarify a couple items. I had one other question and comment that's come up, whether or not we want to exempt fill, for instance, if fill originates in Vernon and it's placed in another location of Vernon, should that be added as one of the
As long as
exempt?
it's not coming from Silver Spruce.
Point made.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so we might want to scrap that one. But we're looking at trying to make it more friendly for the small guys in Vernon, and try not to make it a hardship, but we're trying to guard the township at the same time. So we're making proposing some amendments, probably next month, or maybe even in the next meeting.
I think 28th might be too ambitious a time, so what's the first meeting in November? 14th.
Okay.
Yeah, because we just want to, we can have the second meeting in November, but that's the Monday right after the league.
That's a Thursday.
Right, it's right before Thanksgiving, but it's right after the league. So we could have, if we knew ahead of time, that we had things that needed to go on that agenda, like an ordinance, a second reading, that would be easy to do. But,
That's what I have on that.
Okay, thank you. See, your trip was worthwhile, wasn't it?
Getting them ready.
The other, and then, of course, I think we have, I'm not sure how many employees, but the minimum wage is going up in January. So the salary ordinance, I think there's a couple people, maybe one or two. But if the minimum wage is going up, that should
I don't think we're affected with any of our part-timers. I will double check.
Yeah, I think there was one or two, because I was looking at it. But
In the animal shelter?
Might have been,
Is
yes,
that-
yes.
is that the animal shelter?
I think that's where it was, you're right.
So if we could do that ahead of time, amend that ordinance this way, we don't find ourselves with a...
Just a resolution.
It's just a resolution, yeah. The preliminary budget meetings, are they being, I guess they're usually in November, at the beginning of November, so when you have the dates, if you could just let us know.
We will likely have that by the end of next week.
And one of the items, actually, that the mayor commented on, not today, but it's the mayor's report being on the agenda and it having been moved down from prior years. And I just wanted to, because there was no reason other than in the beginning of 2018, there was a mutual discussion between myself and the mayor to move the mayor's comments down. There was no ill intent. It was not something that myself as the council president did, but it was a discussion because what was happening is the mayor would give his report, and unfortunately, members of the public would get up and, for the most part, criticize items on the mayor's report. So I'm just saying is that I don't appreciate anyone writing. I'm not on Facebook. I'm not commenting. But every once in a while, somebody says, why did you do this? I didn't. And it was 2 years ago, actually, that was changed. And it was right after the 2017 election, because there were things that were happening in the fall there, if you go back to the minutes, that made it a worthwhile thing. And, you like to get through the meetings, in a civil manner, but like I said, so that's why the mayor's report was moved to the end, towards the end of the meeting, right before the council comments. It was not hidden from anyone. There was also a letter to the editor that stated that other candidates or people were stealing signs or removing campaign signs. The other day, Tuesday, after I delivered Meals on Wheels, I ended up at Great Gorge Terrace over there, and I decided, let me just go take a ride to the New Jersey Department of Transportation's yard over in Sussex. Because when the state picks up the signs, they pick them up for a specific reason. So any signs that may have gone missing from Route 94 along any McAfee corridor were, for the most part, picked up by the state. And they do this on a regular basis, whether it's a sign for a political campaign, a for sale sign, a garage sale sign, a bag of trash, wood, lump, whatever it is, they routinely have to pick up debris along the roadways. So I, of course, took a ride there, and I did take pictures of the political signs that were right in the dumpster. They're very nice over there. If you go and you pull in, you just check in and tell them why you're there. If your signs are there, you may take them. They even will actually, if they have quite a few, they'll actually set them aside because they try not to toss them. But when I'm speaking with the gentleman, he enlightened me about an incident that happened in Vernon, he said about 15 years ago. So what I did was, since it was a road department employee that this happened to, I immediately called up Councilmember Allberger and said, oh, do you remember this? So, because the man was giving me information, and I knew about the fact that, I know after several years that they come and they sweep, they do the signs, but your signs need to be placed like 2 feet back behind a telephone pole, because when they're going out and they're trimming, it becomes disruptive. So, Councilmember Allberger, would you like to fill in what happened 15 years ago with the wire?
We had a DPW worker that was severely injured because wire was picked up by the road mower. At the time, it was one of the older mowers, and it was a very hot machine, no doors on it. And it came in and hit him in the neck. And just by the grace of God, somebody from REC was able to, he pulled the tractor across the road and stopped them, and they were able to phone in for an ambulance. But more importantly, signs have to be picked up.
Right, but that's why they go and they pick them up, because what he said is, and I don't think that was the result of a sign or the metal spike of a sign. It happened to have been a metal piece of fencing, but he said that they act as like a projectile, and I think this piece of metal stuck right into this employee's neck. So, but like I said, the electric company gentleman was coming up the street and was able to call it in for him.
Yeah.
So, which, like I said, but it just so happened, he said, wait a minute, it was in Vernon. So, of course, we have our resource here. But that's why they need to be placed so far, and that's why they picked them up. So there's no ill intent, no one is out there stealing signs, and it's unfortunate, but then that starts to create a division when people are thinking that another candidate or their supporters are going up and maliciously taking signs, when in fact it's something that they do as a safety precaution. And I think, and they have rules set up, but it's really to protect themselves. And like I said, we've had that here, so just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention. So if anybody is really missing signs and they'd like to find them, they're very nice over there, conveniently located right off of 23, right before the Acme.
So Vernon is nicer than advertised?
Vernon is much nicer
Okay.
than advertised. As a matter of fact, even the employees here are much nicer than is advertised. And you brought that up. But, there have been in the past maybe some issues with, and it's not always an employee. I mean, you have a resident that comes in and they don't understand and they're angry over something. But being in the real estate business and having many people come in for permits, I have to tell you, in well over a year, I'd have to say, I haven't really heard anything. as, any complaints of anything. And I mean, there were some, but you'll get that with any place. And I think, like I said, they've been trying to, with the portal and people being able to go online and check some of their permits and things. I mean, like I said, if that was improved, it'd be great. I mean, you even tried opening up the hours, having the hours, extended hours for some of the contractors. It was just a matter of whether or not they're busy enough to come in. So, I mean, some of the departments, I mean, have been, like I said, I haven't heard any complaints, and usually, me being out here, like I said, with real estate, you're always hearing something, and I haven't heard anything. The other thing is, how many of you are on social media here? You, John.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
on Facebook?
Yeah.
There's your answer. I'm not.
I am.
You are. Sandy?
What?
You're out there posting
About what?
on social media?
About
Well, I'm
Jean.
just saying that there's information that's out there stating that, elected officials are out there, and at one point it was mentioned the governing body. The council is the governing body, okay? We're not part of administration. We are the governing body. We're the council. And 4 out of 5 of us are not even on social media. So, again, as the council president, I would like to say, on behalf of the council, I would be remiss to not say, people shouldn't be making those claims about the council when they're not true.
What claims, though?
That we're posting on social media derogatory information. So, it's my comment section. I'll do with it what I want. But that's why I just thought it was entertaining, because out of all of us, must be Patrick.
Yeah, Patrick,
But,
stop that now.
It's all my fault.
You got to think before you hit the send button.
It's, yes.
Pledge to pause.
Pledge to
That's
pause.
it, I'm sorry.
Pledge to pause. We have those, and we have those.
Which Pledge to Pause is a beautiful program,
It sure is.
okay? I don't want to,
Can I
take
get one of
anything
those, Sandy, the pledge to pause? Can I get one of those, so if I could use it here?
Sure.
Okay. Let's see, I'm almost done. So other than that, council meetings being canceled. We canceled one this year, June 10th, and it was rescheduled to June 12th. I didn't count. How many meetings have we, do you know, Lauren?
33.
We've had 33 council meetings this year. Oh.
More than I've ever had since I've been here.
Excuse me?
More than I've ever
Okay.
had since I've been here.
We've had 33 council meetings, which is a lot of meetings. One of them was canceled and rescheduled for 2 days later. Again, you can go back and you can look online to see how many meetings there we had prior years. And those meetings also include budget meetings. So, again, we pretty much have our meetings. And then 2 last things. We received a letter from the state. I guess there's going to be some work done on the Lake Conway Dam. Is that something we have to do?
Engineer?
He what, yeah, we
Oh,
wanted to let
Cory.
you know. Yeah, take
You're
that one.
earning your pay.
All right. Lake Conway Dam, that was that's the state's response to our inspection report that's done annually on the dam. The part about that, it's interesting, it lists the condition of the dam as poor, which it's not in poor condition. I want to make that known. It's not in poor condition. It's a designation the state has. For years now, a number of years, we've been reviewing the dam for the classification. The state has suggested and has made it quite clear they believe that that dam should be a higher level dam. And we provided in inundation studies that they had asked for. Inundation studies are showing that large size storms, what happens if there's a dam break. And basically, they're reviewing that information, and because that information is being reviewed, they've had it for about a year. But because it's being under review, they won't list it as a fair condition. They list it as a poor condition because they haven't satisfy that requirement, having an approved inundation study. I think what's going to happen down the road, it's going to show that the inundation, they're going to name it a Class 1 dam. They've done it already for the National Winter Activity Center Dam up on Curtis Drive. They named that a Class 1. And that, if that stream that comes out of there goes down Curtis Drive, down Breakneck, down 515 through the town center, underneath the driveway to Acme.
Is that the one, that's the one that goes right under Breakneck there?
Yes.
Okay, if something
Yes.
happens, Harold McPeak calls.
So the Lake Conway, the dam outlet comes together right below Breakneck, which then they both go underneath the stream that goes underneath the Acme driveway, and then then goes down and crosses under 94. Remember years ago where we had the Hurricane Irene when the road settled right there where the culvert is? Right there, and it goes down into the flats. Bottom line is I believe they're going to name this a Class 1 dam, and in the future, we're going to be looking at an armament of that dam, which would likely cost upwards of $1 million, $500,000 to $1 million to armor that dam. But the state has not made that a requirement yet, but I believe that's down the road for you.
Would that be similar to what they did to the dam in PVL?
Yes.
Where they did the plating?
Yes. These are all dam classifications. They all go back to Hurricane Irene and how many dams failed back then. But that's a standard inspection report that we get every year. But that one stated poor, and we had asked them, normally that would state fair. And the only requirements we have that dam that has to be maintained is the DPW has to make sure it mows the embankments on the downstream side and make sure there's no trees or no groundhogs being formed into the dam side of the dam, just so there's integrity of the dam. But the dam is safe as it is. But it says poor.
It says poor, that's what it was
It's
like.
kind of alarming, and I sent Chuck an email real quick on that yesterday about the fact that I would be here if that came up, because it's kind of alarming, but it's not in poor condition. It's only poor because the study being still outstanding. So,
Thank you. And I promise the last thing is, in 2018, we passed the resolution, that was the one that we were reaffirming the designation in McAfee, the redevelopment resolution, and I'm just wondering, that was sent, was that the okay? Because this was the resolution from 2006 that was never signed by the prior clerk, and then all we did was, we reaffirmed it, and our clerk signed it, and it was supposed to be sent out, because that would have, I think that was the last item that was missing for it to be the redevelopment area over in that portion of the McAfee Village. So I'm just wondering, I don't recall whatever happened with that.
You have to talk to the planner,
Okay. Do you remember that?
because I don't
I'd
know.
have to speak to the planner as well.
Yeah, because I'm just, like I said, I was going through some old things, and I just never knew whatever happened with it. And it was, it's Resolution 18-127, and it was at our April 9th, 2018 meeting. Motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Yes. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Never.